with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, let's start by taking a look at the agenda. Is there any revisions? No? Okay, great. Is there a motion? Thank you. Motion and a second. All in favor of tonight's agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion passes. All right, the next four items are all closely tied together, so we'll do one before we do the next, of course. And so item number 4 is to approve the dissolution of the wrestling pairing agreement with Mountain Lake and Mountain Lake Christian. Jamie, will you give us a little, Mrs. Frank, will you give us a little context, please?
Absolutely. So Butterfield Odin is interested in joining our pairing for wrestling and gymnastics. And so in order to do that, we have to dismantle the agreement that we currently have. And then the next agenda item would be to create a new agreement, including Mountain Lake Christian, Windom, and Butterfield Odin.
Good explanation. Thank you, Mrs. Frank. Do we have any support for this with a motion? And does anyone have any questions or comments? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion passes. Okay, then as Mrs. Frank mentioned, this next is the pairing agreement to reunite and pull it together. Mrs. Frank, do you have any additional? Okay. Is there approval to move this forward? Motion and a second. Thank you. Any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion passes. Okay, item 6 is similar. This is for the dissolution of the gymnastics agreement with Mountain Lake and Mountain Lake Christian. Again, Mrs. Frank, would you tell us why we're doing this?
Sure. Butterfield Odin is interested in joining our pairing agreement for gymnastics. They have, I believe it was 3 athletes who have recently moved into their school, and so they would like to join us and have their gymnasts compete with ours.
Thank you very much. Do we have support for this? Any questions or comments? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. And that motion passes so that we can move on to number 7, which is the new pairing agreement that will include Butterfield Odin with Mountain Lake, us, and Mountain Lake Christian for gymnastics. Do we have support for that? Motion and a second. Thank you. Any questions? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion passes. All right. Welcome, Butterfield Olden. We're looking forward to doing gymnastics and wrestling with you guys. Okay. Next up is item number 8, and Mrs. Anderson is going to talk to us about the 2026 levy certification.
All right, so each year we ask the board to authorize the maximum levy in our preliminary certification to ensure that we receive all of our state aid if adjustments are made. MDE is continuously making adjustments in their levy system, and in addition we have enrollment fluctuations, so that will all continue until the end of November, and then so if we certify a set dollar amount, we might miss out on state aid because we can't go any higher than that dollar amount. So that's why we request to approve that maximum. I did email out a new certification or document packet to you guys because, as always, it's changing. And I do have that new document on the screen, and it is dated for today's date. And there's 39 pages, and I know you read every single line on every single page. But we're going to focus on page 30. So here, let me zoom in a little bit more. Here's where I'm mainly going to talk about this area here. So there's 3 funds that make up a levy. There's the general fund, community service, and then our debt service. And then over here, way on the right side, I'll explain that. So right now, based on this document, our general is decreasing with 7.90. Our community service is decreasing with 12.10. And our debt service is increasing with 6.58 for an overall decrease in 1.21% from last year's levy. Again, I just want to point out that this will always change, and it will keep changing until the end of November. And our next item on there will be to set the truth and taxation meeting, where you as a board will determine where you would like to set the final levy amount. So again, tonight we're asking for you to certify the maximum amount on the preliminary certification. Do you guys have any other questions?
So are you wanting us to do the 1.21 negative,
Right now,
or we just do the net maximum?
You just go to your preliminary certification, just the maximum amount to be able to do a certain dollar.
Okay, thank you.
Not fair to ask you historical questions, but maybe Mrs. Pfeffer can chime in too. This is the one where we came in under the maximum last year, right? Which isn't normal, but that's an example. Like last year, I can't remember how much below the maximum we came, but this was that same thing. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. Do we have anyone want to move this forward? Any other clarifications before we take a vote? Okay. If not, all in favor of authorizing for the maximum, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion passes. Okay, next, we get to set the truth and taxation hearing date. And as we put in the board packet, we proposed December 8, 2025 at 6 p.m., which would just be before our regular board meeting in December. Any questions for our superintendent or anyone on this before we take action? Okay, if not, do we have support for this date and time? Thank you. Again, any questions? Or, I don't know, Mrs. Frank, if you want to add anything? Perfect.
It's a date.
All right. All in favor then, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion passes. Okay, and tonight we get to actually take action on the policies that Matt talked about at our last meeting. As he mentioned, not a ton of changes, but they are in the packet again. Let's start. Is there interest in moving this forward? Thank you. Does anyone from the policy committee have any further comments from last week, or does anybody have any questions on any of these policies? Okay. If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion passes. Thank you, guys. You make it easy for us. We appreciate the time you spend in that subcommittee to move those things forward. Okay. Next up is item number 11. And as we all know, we are diligently working forward, trying to figure out next steps for the needs that we have identified at our school. And we have the other half of our team here tonight. And they're going to help us understand this next step where we go back to for the review and comment. So Artemis, will you explain this to us, please?
Is that on? Excellent. There we go. All right. So I know we've come in front of you and explained this once before, but the state legislature requires a submittal of the review and comment for any school district going to their taxpayers asking for additional funds. Included in this review and comment is a cover letter from the superintendent that would include the proposed ballot language. Jamie, would you like me to read question 1 and 2? All right, so the proposed ballot language will read in question as 2 questions. Question 2 will be contingent on question 1. Question 1, shall the Board of Independent School District 177, Windom Public Schools, Minnesota be authorized to issue general obligation school building bonds in an amount not to exceed $27,500,000 for acquisition and betterment of school sites and facilities, including, but not limited to, Fine Arts Center, multi-purpose field for baseball, softball, football, soccer, and phy-ed, track, wrestling room, gymnastics expansion, and locker room remodeling. Question 2 will read, if school district question number 1 is approved, shall the Board of Independent School District number 177, Windom Public Schools, Minnesota be authorized to issue general obligation school building bonds in an amount not to exceed $1,650,000 for acquisition and betterment of school sites and facilities, including, but not limited to, football/soccer practice fields, youth baseball, and softball fields. So that is the 2 questions in general scope, and we can go into more detail in that as we move forward. Included, if we go to the next page, in a review and comment is a just a summary of your geographic area and population to be served, list of existing school facilities, deficiencies of the school facilities, and a description of the proposed projects, including project diagrams, budgets, and operational expenditures and schedule. All right. We are also required a description of the project's plan for single-user facilities and an attachment that reviews, or essentially is a promise by the architect and the board and superintendent that we will be following all of the set statutes as passed by state of Minnesota and building codes. If you go to sheet 14, we'll go through, that's where we have our visual diagrams for the scope, which we can review. So, included in the question number 1 will be a remodel of the boys and girls locker room, a remodel of the weight room because of the installed second floor of the wrestling room that will go above it. There will be stairs and elevator to the second floor of the wrestling room, and an addition to the existing multi-purpose athletic space to fit gymnastics. There will be a new 650-seat auditorium that will also act as a storm shelter for the building. This will include additional accessory spaces like a green room, changing makeup area, scene shop, storage, and lobby space. If you go down to page 15, this is a diagram showing what will be included in question 1 versus question 2 for the exterior athletic facilities. Included in question 1 is an 8-lane running track and soccer football field, pole vault and jump runways with pits, multi-purpose turf field that will accommodate soccer, football, softball, and baseball, and accessory buildings to support those fields. Included in question 2 would be those youth softball, baseball practice fields shown at the north of the site, and football, soccer practice fields. All right. Any questions about the review and comment? All right.
right, well said. Thank you, Artemis. Paul, Chad, do you have anything to add?
Only just to qualify, this is very similar to the last review and comment. It just adjusted for the scope that the board has worked through over the last few months to narrow things down and tighten it up.
Well said. And this is so that we can go to the public for a vote. This is like the very, very first step that we have to do before we can do anything else, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Would you go to page 2 for me? One more page down. Okay, page 3. Okay. A little bit more. Does it matter if I'm supposed to be treasurer and I'm listed as director? I just don't know, it's a small little thing, but it's,
Yep, we have not submitted this yet, so we can flip those and.
just want to make sure it's correct.
That's right, thank you.
Okay, great. You make it look so simple. It's like we haven't been working day and hour and month and week. It's just like, oh, here's one more document. So, but we really appreciate you guys. Even just being here tonight just shows your commitment to making sure that we do this well, and your commitment to making sure we do it efficiently, effectively, safely, long-term effect. We just really appreciate it. And looking ahead, I mean, you see where the state's going, and you keep us one step ahead as we race against the clock of inflation here. So really good work. We really, really appreciate you guys putting this together. Okay. Any further questions before we take some action here? Yeah, that's a good question. Would now be a good time to talk about the cost a little bit, Chad? Would you like to kind of break that down for us? The light might not work on that one, but...
Does it work?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. Sure. I think we could probably go to, must be about 13, 14, 15, about page 15. The state likes to have them broke down, I guess, a couple of different ways at this point. The first one, right there, you can see it's really broken down by question 1 and question 2. And that's more or less showing you what both of the questions are and what scope goes with both questions. Now the state, they want to break it down on the next sheet on, hey, what is your square footage pricing? And if we go to the next sheet, you can kind of see it gets broke down a different way. It's the same projects, just broke down so the state can kind of review that a little bit better. All of the numbers, if we go back up to the other sheet, really the last 2 columns right there on the very bottom, right there, those ones actually will align out with your question 1 and 2 from your sources and use on page 20. So those dollars align with what Ellers is showing us. Just because how it works and how the state kind of reviews it. When we went through most of these costs, generally speaking, they were the same prices that we looked at before. For the state, they just want to make sure everything is like right on square footage, cost per something. So the numbers change just a little bit, but it's generally the same scope, right? We just had to move a few dollars one way or another in a couple of different buckets. You're not tied to it. It's more for the state for a review. So otherwise, the dollars came up to be the same dollars that we were talking about in our previous meetings. Is there any other questions on any single one of those at all? The scope is the same as what we had went through and what Artemis actually just got done showing. Timeline, yes, there is a timeline. I think it's on page 17. So as you can see, we're doing much of our planning here in 2025 And then we are going to be doing our referendum campaign, and then obviously in February, that's the vote. And then really it's more of a planning up until about April. And we'll be doing some early bidding and procurement in 2026, around September, October, November, somewhere in there. We'll start that process. And then really we would start in earnest in that May, June timeframe, and that would be breaking ground, doing an addition. And then the track would probably really start in maybe that July area, those type of things back there. So, Any questions on the timeline? September 2027, have kids using the facilities.
And I know we're just staying really high level, and if there's anybody watching, there's numbers getting thrown out in timelines. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. We plan to explain in exquisite detail how we came up with this stuff and how this is in response to the surveys. And I think we all feel that this is a much better response to our needs, and very responsive to how the community is going to support those needs. So we're excited if you have questions, if you're listening and you have questions, there's much more information coming. This is just so that we can keep the ball moving. We will be providing a lot more information like we did with the first vote. Or you can reach out to any school board member or the school right now and we can explain it. But that's why we're not going into a lot of detail right now about the project scope. Anybody else want to ask any questions of the three experts as long as we have them here? Or any 2 cents comments to add like I did? Okay. Well, great. I know we are all very much in alignment. There's been a million conversations leading up to this point. So this is kind of a really monumental thing for us to be able to take some action on this tonight. It feels really good. So is there support for moving this review and comment forward? Okay. Again, just open any questions or comments before we take a vote. Okay, great. Well, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Okay, and then we have one more item of business this evening, which is item number 12. And it's an approval letter of support for the city of Windom to apply for the local road improvement grant for 10th Street. Mrs. Frank, will you tell us about that?
Yeah, the city reached out to me. They are writing a grant for $1.5 million on a $6 million project to redo 10th Street, which is from Hy-Vee west toward River Road. So they're in the process of writing that grant. They asked for a support letter. I drafted a letter, which is on your screen and in your board packet, and they're going to be submitting this grant soon, so they just asked for our approval.
Okay, is there support for this? Thank you. Motion and a second. Any questions? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. 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 Opposed, same. Motion passes. All right, before we adjourn, I'll just mention that the board has been invited to go to the Environmental Center, and anyone can join us. They've been working very hard, very hard. You can see it just from the outside over there at the Environmental Center, so we get to go take a sneak peek. But that is all our actions for tonight, so meeting is adjourned.